Erev Tov, good evening. Shalom. And Baruch haba, welcome to our beginner Hebrews class. And we're chocked full tonight. Okay, so got a lot of information for you. We're not going to finish Vav. We will not finish Vav tonight. Okay, so just letting you know. And for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be very full. As we go through the next set of letters, remember that I shared with you last week that we've turned the chapter, we've turned the page, and we're on a new chapter, so to speak, and that begins with the letter Vav. So let's do our Aleph Bet. Let's see if I can get onto it. I don't want that. Okay. So this is let's say our Aleph Bet we are up to Vav. All right, and that's where we're going to stop tonight. So everyone, Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. Again, Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. Again, Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. One more time. Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. Let's do the sounds. Ready? Silent. B, V, G, D, H, V. Do it again. Silent. Everyone. Silent. B, V, G, D, H, V. Again. Silent. B, V, G, D, H, V. And one makes this B and V is the dot. If it has the dot, it's the B sound, B. If it doesn't have the dot, then it's a softer V, like a V sound. All right? Numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, sorry about that, these four too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So let's start with the Vav. If I can. So this is the letter Vav. This is the letter Vav. This is the pictograph, and this is the number. So the letter Vav, pictograph, and its number is 6. As we said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. Its number is 6. You'll notice that the pictograph looks something like our Y letter. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the sound of Vav is that of V or O, long O, or a long U, U sound. Okay, so it's V or O or U. It can be one of those three. Okay, and you know what it is by the markings that come along with it, which we will see right now. The markings that come along with it are these. You notice the significance? Can y'all see those? So I left that dot behind. All right, see that dot down there? It belongs up here. Okay, so it didn't get moved. All right, so without the dot, right here, is just a common vav, and that's the V sound, okay? So, for example, it comes at the beginning of a word, and you see just the vav, and it'll have the semicolon under it, the colon-looking vowel vocalization underneath it. It'll just be a V sound. If it has the dot over it, oftentimes that's the long O sound. It will act as a vowel, as a vocalization. So that would be the long O sound. O. Everyone say O. O. Okay? So as in vo, to come, which is spelled with a bet and a vav. Okay? Or an aleph and a vav. You'll see that in a minute. And the aleph is silent, and it doesn't have a vowel marker, and it just has the vav with the dot here, like this one. And so the sound is just O. That word is simply O. Okay? And then we have this one, and this dot goes up here to the side, right under where it's reaching over, okay, to the side, and that is the long U sound. Oo. Oo. So, as in hu, he and vav. He and vav, hu. Hu means he. So, if I haven't taught you that yet, I think we did it the first lesson. Hu is he and he is she in Hebrew. So, hu means he, H-U, or he, vav, means he. Hu means he, and he with a single dot under it, he means she in Hebrew. So these are the three sounds of vav. The vav itself, the O sound, and the U sound. Now there are times where the vav will not show up in the text. They do shortcuts. In the Torah scroll, when they do a shortcut, the vav does not show up. It signifies certain things. Okay? It's a missing letter. It's a shorthand, but when you're reading in the Torah scroll, there's significance there, and there are different things. Just like with all the letters, there's times where there's a time where the vav is giant; it's real big. There's times where the vav is broken in half. In the word shalom, shin, lamed, vav, mem, and the vav is broken in half, meaning signifying that the piece has been broken. Okay, so when you have letters like that in the Torah, it signifies something. So oftentimes the letter will be written out, but there are times where in the Torah where shortcuts will be taken, and the Chazal, the sages, tell us that this signifies certain things for us, which we're not going to get into tonight. And there are times where the shortcut is taken, and so in those times when the shortcut is taken, vav as a vocalization often does not appear in a word. So here is tohu from the second verse of Genesis, tohu vebohu. Okay, so this is the word tohu. Tohu means without shape, shapeless. Where he says that the world was tohu vebohu, was without form and empty, without shape and empty. So you'll notice that you have a vav here, but there's no vav here. Right? Oh, Chava, welcome. There's no vav here. Notice that you just have this dot over the left top, the left upper side of this letter. That's the vav. So there should actually be a vav there. But the shortcut that they take is that they simply put the dot there, and that's to. Everyone say to. That's this letter here. But they don't put the vav in, they just put the dot over the top. Okay, so there's a missing vav. Here's the u sound that you would have here. Here's the u sound. So the vav is here. Okay? So this is a shortcut. Where the vav itself does not appear, only the dot appears. That tells you, that gives you the vocalization of O, of the long O. I didn't put it up here. This U can also be shortened where the vav does not appear, and there'll be 3 dots underneath this letter here, under the he, and you have 3 dots coming down at an angle. Okay? So either way, either form you can take the shortcut and leave the vav itself out. Okay? If you do it with this, then it's a dot over the upper left. If you do this one, it's 3 dots coming down at an angle underneath. Okay, so it would be like dot, dot, dot. The vav, the letter vav, is a word in and of itself. It is the word and, A-N-D. When most of the time, not always, but most of the time when it is being used as this connector, and, as in this and that, okay? So when it's being used as a connector, it will be added as a prefix to the word. Pre meaning to come before. In Hebrew, you add letters for both prefixes and suffixes. That is, you can add letters to both the beginning and the end. Okay? And it will change the significance, or most of the time, prefixes are the articles and the connectors and those kinds of things. When it comes at the end, it will change. It changes gender, it changes tense, it changes, those kinds of things. So you have the vav here with the segoa underneath it, and it. So this is the in Genesis 1:1, where it says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." It says, "Reshit bara Elohim et kashamayim ve'et haaretz." So this is ve'et. Remember, it is the word that is not translated, the aleph tav, and it signifies all of the aleph bet. We don't have time to go into that tonight, so the first time that the vav appears, which we will talk about, it goes into the ve'et. It goes into this mysterious word that does not have an English translation. Grammatically, it is the pointer to a direct object, but it also has deeper significance, mysterious significance to it. I was debating some men who had been to Bible college, and they had gone through Bible College Hebrew. And Bible College Hebrew is nothing like this. Okay? Basically, they teach you what you can find online. You learn the alphabet, you learn how to put letters together and these kinds of things, but they don't teach you about the mysterious positions of the letters and all of these kinds of things. And they got very upset with me when I told them about the it, about the mysterious it. They denied it. They just absolutely, man, they were just like, well, I've been to Bible college and I took Hebrew in Bible college and all that. And I said, yeah, well, who was your teacher and who taught him and who taught him and who taught him? Because that's not Jewish Hebrew, that's Christian Hebrew. There's a difference. Everybody has an agenda, and we have to understand that. Everybody has an agenda. And they were like, it's just a direct object pointer. It's just a grammatical tool in the sentence structure and everything like that. And I told them, they were there, oh, I went to Bible college and Dr. So-and-so, you know, with his great degree and everything like that. I said, well, I learned from actual rabbis. There's a, you know, it's different. And this is very significant, and you can look it up. They didn't want to look it up. You can look it up, check me out. Don't take my word for it. Check it out. Not in Christian sites, not even in Messianic sites. Check it out on Jewish sites. And you will find the mysterious et. And they talk about it. And so, you know, those people that would want to deny these things, you know, I'm just putting it out there because we are live. So just putting it out there and tweaking somebody tonight. I don't know who. So the vav here is and it, the earth, and it haaretz. Okay, so Reshit, in the beginning, bara, created Elohim, God. It, direct object pointer, kashamayim, the heavens. It, and silent, the earth, or and direct object pointer, the earth. Okay, so when vav is added to the beginning of a word, particularly a noun, that means and. Okay, so what is vav doing? Connecting this with that. Table and chair. Okay, garden and flowers. It's connecting things together. Okay, and that's the way you make a list, right? Now, in our English today, we also have shortcuts, right? And one of our shortcuts is the comma, so that you don't say water and glasses and cups and this and dishes and this and that and that and. So instead we do what? We throw the comma in there and then we put and it. But that comma means that an and goes in there to connect everything together. Okay? So that's why the comma is there in a sentence when you have a list and you're putting commas in. That's why you're putting the comma in there, is because that's signifying that an and, a connector, does go in there, but you're just using a shortcut with the comma. All right, everybody got that? Everybody understand that? So the next time you see the vav there in front of the word, because I expect you to be looking at Hebrew, okay, and studying it. So the next time that you see a vav at the beginning of the word, you're going to say what? And. Okay, so we would say Adam ve'chava. Say Adam ve'chava, which is Adam, and Chava, Eve. Adam ve'chava, Adam and Eve. Okay, Adam, say it. Adam ve'chava. Okay, Adam and Eve. Say it again. Adam ve'chava. Adam and Eve. Okay. Now, remember I said that if you have an aleph and a vav with the dot over it, this is simply pronounced O. O. And O is how you say, como en español, or in English. Either or. Okay? So, O is how you say or. Notice that it's still a connector. This or that. This or that or the other. You're still connecting things together. So look at the pictograph. Is everybody caught up with us? Somebody's trying to kill me. Stepping on a screw over here, and I'm already got balance problems as it is. It's probably you. Okay, so look at the pictograph, and what do you suppose this is? Remember, it's a picture. It's like a cartoon picture to explain a letter, to explain something. Okay? Does anybody remember? Emilio, do you remember? Remember? You remember?
Vav is man.
Vav is what?
Man.
But what is the pictograph right there?
Um,
Okay, I won't torture you. Vav means hook, like a peg. Okay, these are the hooks in the Mishkan. Okay, what was the Mishkan? The tabernacle, the big tent. Okay, and there were hooks to hook the curtain on the poles. That was the walls of the Mishkan, and then so it was pegs, like a tent peg. Or you can say it's a nail. It might be a nail. So hook or nail, a tack, anything like that, that's a vav. Vav means hook.
Here in my notes also I have that it's a connector.
Yes, exactly. That's why we said yes, the and. The word and is a connector. So it connects things. That's what does a nail do? A nail connects one board to another board. The vav in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, it connected the tent to the poles to hold the walls up. Okay, and then they had the big wall of the outer court. They had the big tent, how do you say it? The animal skins, the curtains made out of the animal skins, and it went all the way around the whole Mishkan on the outside, and it was hooks. There was a pillar. There would be a pillar, and then a pole from pillar to pillar, and you would hook, just like the curtains that you do today, right? That's a vav. That's a vav. And so the pictograph is that of a nail or a peg or a tack or any of those kinds of things. And the significance is to connect. The idea, the defining term is connection, to connect together. So what does a nail do? A nail connects one board to another board. What does a peg do? It connects the tent to the ground. What does the hook do? It connects the curtain to the pole, to the curtain rod. Okay, so the idea is that of connection. So what does and do? It connects this to that, and this and that, and the other. So you would say, I want so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so to go and do something. So you're connecting them together. Okay? So it's the idea of connection. Or is a connector. So here, O is a connector. Vav here. Vit is a connector. And or. They're both connectors. Okay, so it's the idea of connection. That's the defining term, to connect, to make a connection. So Vav is the connection. Ballerina. Okay, let's go to do the top one first. Vav is a man standing upright with his hand outstretched. Okay? Basically, this is a man standing upright. And it's a line up, a vertical line, and we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. It's a vertical line with a yud attached to it. What is yud? It's a hand. Okay, so this is a man with his, you notice here, you have basically the same thing. It's a man with his arms up, yes. So Vav represents man. Saying that man is the connecting factor. Man is the connecting factor. Now we're going to stop here a little bit. we will talk about this next week. We're not going to get to the number 6 tonight, but I'll just throw it in there for you, that it is that man, the reason why man, his number is 6. The number of man is 6. So you have Yochanan writing in Kikalut, you have John writing in the book of Revelation about 660 and 6, that it is the number of a man. This is the number of the anti-Mashiach, the one who comes in place of the Mashiach. Anti does not mean against, it means in place of. He's a pretender. He comes pretending to be Mashiach. And he will have a number, and his number is 660 and 6. And why is this? What the number? So that's 6 cubed, right? 6 times 6 times 6, 6 cubed. Okay, 6 times itself 3 times. And so, why is 6 attached to man? Because in Reshit Aleph, in Genesis chapter 1, man is created on the 6th day. Man is the last of creation. He's the pinnacle. And everything is created for him. So man is created on the 6th day. And then God gives to man 6 days to do his physical work. And in Exodus chapter 20, Shemot, Exodus chapter 20, in the 10 Commandments, he says 6 days you have to do all your work, but the 7th day is dedicated to Adonai, Elohecha, the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your sons, nor your daughters, nor your servants, your male servants, or your female servants, nor your livestock, or the animals who are with you. That nothing that you have may do labor on the 7th day. Okay, so it's not just you or your children, but that means that you're not supposed to go here or there. You're not supposed to have other people working on your behalf. So if I go to a restaurant on the 7th day on Shabbat, if I go to a restaurant, I'm breaking the Shabbat. How? Not just because I'm spending money, which Nehemiah, the prophet Nehemiah, put into action when they came back, that we are not to be buying or selling on Shabbat, because we're to keep it sanctified and holy. You have 6 days to do all of that. Under the penalty of death with Nehemiah and Ezra, that we're not to buy or sell on Shabbat under penalty of death. But it's not just that, because people will say, but that's after the Torah, that's adding to the word. Well, Nehemiah added to the word, and God accepted what he added to the word. So, little rabbit trail there of putting up fences. Are we allowed to put up fences around the Torah? Yes, we are, in order to keep the Torah. People get upset, well, those are just man-made traditions. Well, Nehemiah is the one who put it up, and who put up that fence about not buying and selling on Shabbat, and God accepted it, and it became the law of Israel. But I'm not. If I were to go, like the great Sunday brunch rush, or whatever. As soon as you get out of service and you go run into the restaurant so you can beat the Methodists or beat the Catholics or whomever to the restaurant, that kind of thing is contrary to Scripture. It's contrary to the Torah. Why? Because you are not working, but you're making someone else work on your behalf. That is your servant. In fact, we call those people servers. The person who brings you the food is a server. They're a waiter, a waitress. They are waiting on you. They are serving you. So even in the very name, if I go to the mall and I have someone ring up a cash register because I'm buying something, I've broken Shabbat, but not only have I broken Shabbat, I've called somebody else to break Shabbat because they're ringing up for me. And so I'm not to have other people working in my place, doing things. You say, well, I'm not working. No, but you're having someone else work. Then the excuse is, well, they're going to be doing it anyway. Not if we were observing the Torah. If we were observing the Torah, they would not be there. In fact, it's the fault of Christianity that everybody's open on Sunday. Who did that? Who allows it? You see, if nobody were shopping, they're not going to take the time to open the stores if we don't go and do the shopping. So if people who say, well, Sunday's our Sabbath, Sunday's our Sabbath, it changed to Sunday. Well, then how come you're not treating it like a Shabbat? Huh? How come you're disrespecting it? If that's your Sabbath, why are you disrespecting it? Why are you going shopping? Oh, well, because he fulfilled the law. Oh, so that means that you don't respect the law. You don't have to respect it because he did it. Huh? Because the police officer is going 55 miles an hour with the speed limit says that means you can go 70 because he's the one that's going 55. No. You see, none of it makes sense. None of this is logical. Which tells you what? If it's not a logical argument, it's an emotional argument. It's an argument of my emotions, not of logic. It's Christianity is the reason why all the stores and restaurants and and nobody's respecting Sunday. Nobody's respecting Sunday. I should not say nobody because there are a few who are, but most not. Most are not. And even the very strict of sects of denominations. I see Pentecostal holiness people out on Sunday, out shopping, going to restaurants and doing these things. Pentecostal holiness, they're one of the most rigid conservative of the evangelical denominations. It's the ones where the ladies always wear dresses and they're usually wearing black and white and they don't wear makeup and all of these kinds of things. And so, how did I get into this? I got into this because you have 6 days to do all of that. The seventh is to be dedicated wholly unto God, unto the spiritual, not to the physical. It doesn't mean that you don't enjoy Shabbat. It's just that while you're at work all week, you're sitting there at your desk or wherever saying, I wish I could be at home. And then God gives you the opportunity to be at home and you want to work. He gives you a vacation every single week. He gives you a one-day vacation, 24 hours of vacation, where not only do you not have to do anything, you're not supposed to do anything, you're supposed to take a break from all of that and recharge yourself and get filled with spirituality. In doing this, the Chazal teach us that we are taking place in the creative act of Hashem, that we are creating with Him. Because what are we doing on the seventh day? We are resting with God. We are at rest with Him. As He was at rest on the Shabbat of that first week of creation, so we rest with Him. He set the first example. Remember what we say, though, the law of first mention. We've been teaching about for the last several weeks the law of first mention. We're going to talk about it again this Shabbat. In the law of first mention, when something is first mentioned, how it is mentioned and the pattern that it follows is the pattern that it will follow throughout the Scripture. So how is Shabbat first mentioned? As a day of rest. Therefore, that pattern will be followed throughout Scripture. That day, just like evening and morning, where one day, evening and morning were second day, evening and morning were third day. Darkness is mentioned before light. Therefore, we know that the day in Judaism, the day starts where? In the evening, when the sun sets. That's the law of first mention. That's the pattern that is set. And so here we have a pattern set for us. That Shabbat is a day of rest. That's 6 days. And so 6 is the number of physicality. 6 is the number of the physical man. 6 is the number of Adam, whom Rav Shaul in the book of Romans calls Adam Rishon, the first Adam. Adam A-D-A-M, Adam Rishon, R-I-S-H-O-N, Rishon, first. And then you have the Adam Shivi, the second Adam, who is Mashiach. Adam failed in his mission. You know, when you play those bubble shooter games or whatever, and it comes out, bam, 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 fail, right? And that's what happened to Adam and Chava. Everybody say it, Adam ve'Chava. Adam and ve'Chava, they failed. And so it came out, bam, 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 fail. They failed. But Yeshua is Adam Shavi'i. He's the second Adam. He's Mashiach, and he did not fail in his mission. He succeeded in his mission by living according to Torah and showing us how to live according to Torah. So he succeeds in his mission. And through his success, he brings about redemption. So it has to do with man being created on the sixth day and the 6 days of creation. It's not the 7 days of creation. There are 6 days of creation. The seventh day, there is no creation. The seventh day, God rests. In saying this, why is man created on the sixth day? Again, we will come back to this next week, but I want to throw it out there for you this week. Why is man created last? He's the last of all of the creation. Because it is as Yeshua says in Yochanan, John chapter 14. You believe in my Father, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places, and I go to prepare you a place. If I go to prepare you a place, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Okay? What's he speaking about? This dwelling place, that he's going to go to prepare a dwelling place for us, and that he's coming again. Well, Yochanan, again in Chigalut, in John chapter 22, 21, 22, 22 I think it is, but he says that he sees the new Jerusalem coming down from heaven, adorned as a bride coming for the groom. Okay? And so this new Jerusalem is the dwelling place. And he's going to bring it down as the dwelling place of his bride. Who is the bride of Mashiach? Does anybody remember? Who is the bride of Mashiach? Who is the bride of the Messiah?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
We are in essence. But the Shekinah, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Shekinah, if you remember the tree of life, the Shekinah is the bride. And the Ruach HaKodesh, the Shekinah, dwells where? In us, within us. Do you not know that your body is the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, the holy house of Ruach HaKodesh, of the Holy Spirit? That she dwells in you, within you. And so that's what makes us of the bride. We are in effect, in essence, we are the guests of the bride. And we are of her party. Like when you go to a wedding and they ask, which side are you going to sit on, the side of the bride or the side of the groom? Well, it's the bride who is dwelling within us. We will sit on the side of the bride, as it were. Just using allegory here. Don't take it literal. But understand that this is the significance of it. This is the idea of it. And so he goes, it's as though he has gone to build a huge house for his bride and his family to live in. A manor, a mansion, a palace. But you don't get the house halfway built. Half of the plumbing isn't in, half of the lights don't work. Doors are missing, cabinets are open, the kitchen's not working. But you bring your bride anyway. Oh well. I didn't have time to finish it, and it is what it is, and she's just gonna have to like it and appreciate the effort that I put in. And what's the bride going to say? You fix this mess and don't bring me back here until it's done. That's what he means when he says, I go to prepare. When it's done, that's when he will come. It's been said, if it took him 6 days to create all of this creation, the entire universe, in its wonderful, marvelous beauty, it took him 6 days to do that. It's taken him 2,000 years to prepare a place for you and me to live, to prepare the palace for us to live in. How beautiful. This is why Rav Shaul again says that the eye has not seen and the ear has not heard what wonderful things God has in store for those who believe, for those who are in Him. And so what we're saying is that the groom does not halfway build and halfway furnish the house for his bride. He does it all the way. He makes sure that everything's in place. Everything is done. And then he brings her. I particularly in my younger days, I was an impatient young man. I would become very impatient. And there were those who would spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on the engagement rings for their girlfriends, their fiancés, their wives to be. One day I just decided, I had saved up about $150 and I just decided that it was time. So there was a Zales store, something, a jewelry store down the street from the college, and I went running down there with my cash. And I found a little silver ring, kind of like this one here, matched this one, a little silver ring, and it had a little diamond chip on it. Not a full diamond, just a chip on it. And that's what I could afford. And so that's what I bought. And I bought it and went running home. And she was working at the office. She was on scholarship working at the office and of one of the professors there on the campus. And so I went to what they called Happy Corner, was where they sold hamburgers and sodas there on campus. And I went there and I bought a soda, filled it up with ice. I stuck the ring in the bottom of the cup and then filled it up with ice and soda and took her something to drink. And I was sitting there and I gave her her drink and she's there drinking it and drinking it and drinking it. And I'm just sitting there watching her drink, and she's like, well, what are you looking at? And why, move along. I'm busy. I've got work to do. You're bothering. Go away, son. You're bothering me. And I was just sitting there, and finally she gets down to the bottom of the glass, and there she looks and she says, man, there's something in my drink. She thought it was a roach or a bug or something. She's like, what did you do? And she stuck her straw down there, and she's moving the ice around, and she pulls out the ring. And when she pulled the ring out, I got down on my knees and I asked her if she would marry me, and she threw the cup at me and said, get out of here, idiot. No, she didn't. She started crying and I started crying, and so we were both crying, and the professor happened to be a psychologist. Wanted to know if we needed counseling, and I said probably after this. But so I'm impatient. And sometimes I short circuit myself and don't get everything done properly in these kinds of things. But Mashiach is not impatient. He will come when the time is right. He will come when the Father sends him to come. When does the Father send him to come? Well, there's this tradition in ancient Israel. In ancient Israel, it was much like other countries around the world, much like maybe you would see in Mexico, where the mother and the father, they buy a farm and they get married, they build a house, the husband builds the house or whatever, and they build their house. And then she has children. And the oldest son, he falls in love and he wants to get married, and so the father has him build their house, their casita, right there next to the father's house, connected. And then the next one and the next one, and they build around. And before you know it, you have this house all around, and in the middle you have a courtyard, a plaza, right? In the middle. And this is where this tradition comes from. In Israel, the son would attach his and his wife's house to the father's house. They would simply just attach it. And then the next son would follow, and the next son would follow, and they would build around the courtyard. And the courtyard would be the family area. And then they would each have their own house. This is the idea. This is the idea. But the groom could not take his wife, could not get his wife until he had completed the house, his house, to his father's liking, to the father's permission. The father would go in and inspect the house and then would tell the groom, all right, it is sufficient, you may go and fetch your bride. And these are the stories, the parables that Yeshua is telling about the bridegroom coming at night with his groomsmen and coming to claim his bride. Well, where has he been? He's been building her a house. And now the father says, it's time, it's ready, bring her home. You have these beautiful, awesome pictures of the bride and the groom, and we are the bride. In essence, because the bride, who is Hashachinah, who is Haruach HaKodesh, is living within us. So this is what it means that he's gone to prepare a place for us. And this is what it means for the 6th day. And then the 7th day is a day of rest. There are 6, the Chazal tell us that there are 6 millennia. A millennium is a 1,000-year period. There are 6,000 years that are given to man to bring about tikkun, to bring about rectification, correction, to bring about teshuvah. And then Mashiach comes. But he comes whether we've done tikkun and teshuvah or not. If we've done tikkun and we've done teshuvah, then he comes and simply comes and takes over as Melech HaOlam, as the king of the universe. But if not, then he comes with terror in his wings. And he comes with a sword out of his mouth. How do you think things are going today? If he were to come today, does he come with the piece of a dove, or does he come with the sword out of his mouth? He's going to come with the sword out of his mouth. And it's not just pagan people. It's even those who call themselves Christians and Jews and Messianics and whomever. That man is the connecting factor. Point number 2 on the right-hand side. That man is the connecting factor. We are the connection. You are the big connection. What a lot of people do not understand is that we are the determination of how Mashiach comes, and we are the determining factor of correction that will occur. Saying that Mashiach in effect is waiting on you and me. In fact, that creation is waiting on us. Creation is waiting on mankind, all of creation, because man was the pinnacle. That's what I was talking about. Man is the pinnacle. So even as Hashem had built, even as Mashiach builds this whole palace, and he doesn't come until it's prepared and everything is ready and in order. So it was that Elohim, that Hashem, prepares the entire creation, all of universe, and he does not create mankind until he does not create Adam, until everything of creation is proper and in order. What we are saying is that in effect that this world was the first wedding gift to Ruach HaKodesh. Remember our study on Shabbat, that Ruach HaKodesh is hovering over the face of the earth. That this is her realm, that this is her kingdom, that Malchut, the kingdom, is her realm. So that when Adam falls and he brings all of creation down with him, he takes her with him. So that the bride and the groom are separated until they can be reunited. How are they reunited? Through tikkun and through teshuvah. Through correction of this kingdom and through the return of Ha'adam, of mankind, to Hashem. And so this is why the sixth day and why man is created last, because everything is created for him. Everything is created on account of us, on our behalf. Everything that Adam would need is first created for man to have not only a good life, but a wonderful life, a life abundant in everything, and that we would be happy and pleased and satisfied, content. So everything is created first. And then Ha'adam is created. The last event. So saying that Ha'adam, that mankind, is the pinnacle, is the height of God's creation. Man is the most splendorous of all of creation. And though it is said we are created a little lower than the angels, that he will elevate us above the Malachim in due time, at the proper time. We are not elevated above Malachim at this point because we have not been rectified. We had not yet been tested. That man is the connecting factor. That it is man, if you remember, who has the dual neshamot, the dual instincts, the two men, the new man and the old man, the new creature and the old creature, the new creation, the old creation, the first Adam and the second Adam. And it is only mankind that has this duality. The animals only have the nefesh bechama, the animal instinct. The malachim only have the nefesh cheshamayim, the spiritual instinct. But man is created with both. He's created with this duality. And he can choose to serve one or he can choose to serve the other. When Yeshua says that man can only serve two masters, man can only serve one master, That if he serves one, he will hate the other, and if he serves the other, he will despise the other one. He says, but you cannot serve God and mammon, dinero, money, the dollar. You cannot serve the spiritual and the physical. You must choose which one you're going to serve. And through this, you remember the aleph with one hand up and one hand down. It's a vav with one hand reaching up and one hand reaching down. The connecting factor. It is man who connects heaven to earth. We are the connection. The problem with many of us, though, is that we are a poor connection. Sometimes like when you're watching YouTube, right? And it freezes right in the middle of that important movie that you're watching, or Netflix or whatever, and it freezes. And it's there spinning and spinning and spinning, right? And what do you say? I have a poor connection. And you do all these things. You punch different things to try to get it going. And finally what? You turn it off and turn it back on again, hoping to get a better connection. When I was growing up, we lived out in the country, and we were on what was called a party line, the old telephones. And first it was the old rotary phone, and then it was the punch button phone or whatever. But we were on a party line, and so you could, when you wanted to make a phone call, and you could pick up the receiver, and there was this high school guy that lived down the road, and we were all there was about 5 families on the same party line. This high school guy lived down the road. I was in junior high, in grade school. And so we would pick up the phone, and he would be there talking to his girlfriend, and he'd be there, telling her sweet nothings and all of this, and flirting with her and saying all these kinds of things. And we'd start, and he'd say, "King, I'm going to kill you." And we'd hang up the phone, And he just lived right down the road, so we'd go hide because we didn't know if he might really come and try to kill us or something, but beat us up. But sometimes you pick up the phone and it's a poor connection. It would be all staticky and everything like that. And when they first came out with the cell phones, sometimes it would sound like you were in a tunnel, and you could hear your voice echoing, as it was being bounced off of cell tower after cell tower, off of satellites or whatever. So you have a poor connection, so you hang up and try to reconnect. Well, listen, we need to reconnect. We're a poor connection. That's the truth. What makes the poor connection? Well, a lot of times back then, it would be, there's storms taking place, dish sometimes will go down, or what's the other one? With the satellite will go down, and you call them up and you say, "Hey, what's going on with my reception?" And they'll say, "Well, there's a storm in St. Louis." And you're like, "Yeah, but I'm down here in the valley." And they'll be like, "Yeah, but the storm's affecting the satellite reception up there," and whatever, because there's interference. I worked in radio. That was where I was going to school, and have you ever noticed that with the old radios that there would be nights where it would be like those cold January and February nights where it would be crystal clear, and you could get Chicago and St. Louis, and you could get Illinois, and you could get Idaho and Iowa and all of these different stations, because the signal was bouncing off of the stratosphere up at the top. It was bouncing, and it was skipping. But you couldn't get you couldn't get KRGV in Weslaco, but you could get Idaho, and so because there's static and there's this and there's that, and so you don't have a good connection. And back then we had the little dial, and we would sit there and try to dial it in, Even on the TV, you'd be getting static, and it had a little plastic twist thing, and you could twist it back and forth and try to tune it in. And you'd be there with the rabbit ears trying to twist it, put foil on top, put foil over your head, whatever. You'd be standing there you make your brother stand there with his foot up, whatever, and all these different shapes trying to get the signal because there's interference. Well, we have interference. we have a bad connection with God. We want to know how come we don't hear from Him, how come we don't feel Him, how come He doesn't feel near to us, how come this and how come that. The reason is because we have a bad connection. The problem is we are the connector. The interference is not on His behalf. It's not on His part. It's on our part. It's not on His side. It's on our side. And so we are the connection between heaven and earth. And we'll stop here for the first hour. Creation awaits the redemption of man. Romans, what did it say? Chapter 8, verse 19. He says, Rav Shaul says in Romans 8:18, he says, "For I consider the suffering of this present time not worthy to be compared with the coming glory to be revealed to us." Remember what I said, that no man, no eye has seen, no ear has heard the glory that God has prepared for those who believe in Him. So he's saying the same thing here. He says, "For I consider the suffering of this present time not worthy to be compared with the coming glory to be revealed to us." So what I'm going through today can't even be compared to the glory, to the wonder, to the splendor that God has prepared for us, that God is preparing to reveal to us. Now, as you know, I went through a very difficult year last year. And I say sometimes that, sometimes people may get tired of hearing me talk about this, but it was such a life-changing event for me that I cannot stop telling you about it. But telling you that even on the darkest days, that a year ago next month, I was so close to death. So close to death. That the doctors were giving me 24 hours. That my family was preparing my funeral. That even that experience cannot compare, is nothing in comparison to the joy that God has in store for us. Our sorrow cannot go to the depth as our joy will go to the height. Do you understand that? You cannot go down as deep as you can go above in height. You cannot go down in sorrow as you can go to the height of joy, of the things that God has in store for us. Stop it. So understand this, that this is what He's telling us. That, I've been talking and we're going to get deeper into it. Emilio's all excited. This Shabbat, you're living in the matrix. This is not the real world. This is the make-believe world. So when you see this poor building, understand that it's not this. This isn't it. The reality is yet to come. It's on the other side. What do I mean on the other side? It's in the other universe. It's right here. It's in existence. We just can't experience it yet, because we're not in the realm to be able to experience it. But it's there. So he says, look at verse 19. For creation eagerly awaits the revelation of the sons of God. What? Who are the sons of God? B'nai Elohim. Who are the sons of God? We are the children of God. Saying what? Creation is waiting on us. It's not that when your dog bites you, blame yourself. When your cat scratches you, it's not your cat's fault. The cat is acting in its nature. It's our fault. We brought the curse. It is Ha'adam. We are the ones who are culpable in all of this. We are the ones. They didn't fall. We fell. And we dragged them down with us kicking and screaming. They did not want to fall. And it's not just this life. It's not just this earth that is cursed. It's the entire universe is cursed. All of creation. All of creation is waiting our redemption to buy us back. He says, verse 24, the creation was subjected to futility. Now, you need to underline that word futility because this is the word vanity, and we're going to come to this when we study the number 6. Vanity, emptiness. As Shlomo HaMelech said in the prophet, in the Ecclesiastes, the teacher, he says, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. Emptiness, emptiness, everything is emptiness. We're going to talk about that with the number 6 because it has a lot to do with what's coming in the near future.
Vanidad de vanidades, todo es vanidad.
Exactamente. It has a lot to do with 666. Because the gematria of that is pride. The anti-Mashiach, the one who comes to replace his mark, is that of pride. We see it prevalent today. Where are the humble? Where are the meek and the lowly? The true followers of Yeshua Mashiach. Today it's all about me. Even among churches and messianics and rabbis and pastors, and it's all about pride. With many of them, not all of them, but with many of them. So he says that creation was subjected to this futility, to this emptiness. Not willingly, not because they wanted to, but because of the one who subjected it in hope that the creation itself also will be set free from bondage to decay into the glorious freedom of the children of God. Saying what? That everything will be remade the way it was in the beginning. Everything's going to be remade the way it was. Saying what? Where do we go when we die? Being followers of Yeshua, being followers of sons of the B'nai Elohim, B'nai Yisrael. Where do we go when we die? To Pardes, to paradise. What is Pardes? What is paradise? Eden, Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. Where is it that we will live in Olam Haba, the world to come? Pardes, Gan Eden. This is the place he has gone to prepare for us. He has, in effect, gone to make restoration, gone to repair. And it is when Mashiach comes that we will have true tikkun, true reparation, true correction, true teshuvah, true returning, true turning to HaMashiach, to Elohim, not just from the mouth, but from the heart, and from our actions as well. And so, the reason why the world and why all of creation is under the curse and in the condition, in the situation it is in today, is because of Adam, is because of us, our wickedness, our sinfulness, our failure. When will it be corrected? It will be corrected when tikkun is made, when correction is made, when teshuvah, when mankind returns with all of his heart to Hashem. When will that be? In Olam Haba, in the age of Mashiach. That will be. So we're going to take a 5-minute break here. You're on. So, as you can see, when we started, I told you this is going to be chock full, and I've got a whole other page of information. I don't know if we're going to get to all of it tonight, but we will get as far as we can get, and that's all we can do. All right? So, let's get back to this. So as we had stated earlier, Vav is made with a vertical line and a Yod. Okay, this vertical line, and I love teachings like this because they match, they come together with what we were talking about on Shabbat. And so you'll notice here that you have a vertical line, okay, with a Yud, the hand, okay. So if you took the line off, you'd have the little, not comma, but the apostrophe, okay? So it's a line, it's a vertical line with a Yud attached to it. So the Chasal tell us concerning this vertical line that is man, as it were, the connector, the connection, that this is in fact the divine light of creation. So what did we start speaking to this last Shabbat? The Omer Elohim, and God said, what? Yehi or, let there be light. Vayehi or, and there was light. Okay, so God said, let there be light, and there was light. And we started explaining that this light is in effect in line with what would be called the Big Bang Theory. Okay, that there was this minuscule point of light that came into being and in nanoseconds burst into what we now know as the universe. That everything of the universe was contained within this photon of light, this particle of light, as it quickly expanded. Remember the equation, Einstein's equation of relativity, E equals mc squared. E, energy, equals mass times the speed of light squared. And so what is mass? Mass is made up of energy. What is energy? Energy is light. Okay? Saying that everything is made of light. That it is affected by the speed of light. That time is affected by the speed of light. So that the closer you approach the speed of light, the slower time goes. That time slows down. To the point that when you reach the speed of light, it stops. When you surpass the speed of light, which is what you would have to do if you are to multiply the speed of light times itself, some, I believe, 35 billion miles per second. Okay, so if you were to multiply 186,282 miles per second on itself, you would come to some 35 billion miles per second, which is faster than the speed of light by itself. Saying that the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, and itself, you're going beyond the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. That time, when you surpass the speed of light, time begins to go backwards. It goes in reverse. So, is there the possibility of time travel? Well, if you can make time go backwards, the problem is, and they have done it with particles, atomic particles, subatomic particles, they have done it. They have made it go backwards. The problem is that the forces to do so are so great that there would be nothing left of you or me, except for atoms. Okay, so it's problematic. What is the probability? In this day and age, it's not. It is not probable that this is going to happen. We do not have the understanding, we do not have the ability. But is it possible? That's different from probable. Is it possible to be done according to the theory of relativity? Yes, it is possible. And in fact, it happens. And in fact, this is what happened in the Big Bang, that light was traveling, the light particles were traveling so fast that they were going backwards. Now, how do you go backwards from the start, from a starting position? I don't know. We don't understand it. We do know this. We do know that the earth is not that old, and yet the earth is that old. We do know, as the Chazal teaches, that there are only 6,000 years given to mankind to bring about tikkun, and yet it appears that that creation is millions, billions of years old. How can it be? Because we do not understand the length of a single day on the day of its creation as we understand time today. It's not the same. And as light was traveling to its position of creating the universe at twice its speed, that things were actually going backwards, so that this earth could very well appear to be very old, that it is in fact very old. And what happened in all of that time in that age, who knows? Saying that, as the scripture says, a day is as with the Lord 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. So could it not also be that one day would equal 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 years? Because he's outside of time. It does not affect him, it does not touch him. So as light was stretching itself out, time was going in reverse, aging this earth, as the earth was even being created. These are mind-exploding things to think about, you know. So I'm going to go home tonight and not sleep. My brain will be exploding as I think on this. And so that's what we're saying, that the divine light of creation, what we're saying is that everything is made of light. And as the physicist, Dr. Tesla, the engineer Dr. Tesla stated, everything is made of light, and light is within everything. We are basically light particles put together. We'll get into more of this next Shabbat, this coming Shabbat, as we continue to study Let There Be Light. And so man is, in fact, a creature of light. And man was, in fact, first clothed in light. This is why Adam and Chava did not know that they were naked, because they did not see themselves as naked. Why? Because they were beings of light, clothed in light. Therefore, they did not see their nakedness. It was not until the light dissipated. How did the light dissipate? That they failed at their exam. They failed when they were tested. They failed, and thus the light dissipated, and they saw that they were naked, and they tried to replicate. How do you replicate such a glorious thing? And they had no means except for to take the grape leaves and sew them together and try to make some kind of covering for themselves because they had nothing else with which to cover. And that gets into a whole other fabulous story, which we'll get into, that God creates for Adam and Chava cloaks, clothes. And we'll get into that when we get into the study of Adam and Chava. And it's very interesting. Have you heard of Joseph's coat of many colors? Well, guess what? The Chazal teach us that that was actually Adam's cloak, his robe that God had made. And it gets into just mind-blowing things that we don't have time to get into tonight, but just whetting your appetite there a little bit, all right? Just giving you a sip of it so that you can understand. So, the divine light of creation. So, the Vav of connection, this Vav of connection is called Vav HaChivur. Everyone say Vav HaChivur. So, Chibur means connection. The Vav of connection. Connection, this Vav Chibur, is the ability to place things in order. Mankind has the ability to place things in order. When you own birds, chickens, parrots, doves, pigeons, what have you. When a thunderstorm is coming and everything turns black, the sky gets very dark, what happens to the birds? Huh?
Start putting themselves away.
They start putting themselves away. A solar eclipse, what happens to the birds? They stop flying. Almost all the birds will stop flying and they go to roost in the trees. They start putting themselves away. You know why that is. You know how to get, if you have a parrot, anybody here have a parrot? Or parakeets or anything like that? You know how to get them to stop squawking? You cover the cage. You put a cover over the cage. Why does that stop them from squawking? Because they think it is nighttime. Because it becomes dark. So when an eclipse is coming or a storm is coming and the sky gets dark, it's not just because the storm is coming, but it is because the sky gets dark that they put themselves away. Because they, in their thinking, their little pea brain, in their way of thinking, it's nighttime. This is why in our Shabbat liturgy, in our Shachrit actually, in our everyday liturgy, we thank Hashem for giving us the ability to determine the difference between Boker ve'layla, between day and night. That you are able to distinguish between the daytime and the nighttime. Because many in the animal kingdom cannot do that. If it's dark to them, it is turning night. Now, why am I telling you this? And it's a wonderful thing that you are able to wake up in the morning and say, Boker Tov. And you are able to look out the door this evening and see that the sun is gone and you're able to say, Laila Tov. Many animals are not able to distinguish necessarily between the two. In fact, there are many animals who, to them, Laila Tov is Boker Tov, because they're night animals, they're night creatures. Dogs and cats can see 100 times better than human beings at night. And they can't even see in color. because they don't have the proper rods in their eyes to see color. But they have more rods in their eyes so that they are able to pick up more light at nighttime. So, why am I telling you all of this? Because of Vav HaChivur, that the connection, that this connector, this connection has the ability to place in order. Remember what I told you that Vav is. Vav means what? Come on, as a prefix, Vav means and. So what do? You're placing in order tables and chairs and plates and napkins and spoons and forks and you are lining up. You're making a list. Do animals make lists? No. Animals do not make lists. They are able to enumerate. Humans are able to enumerate. We are able to join together. Not just with ourselves, but with our fellow creation. With our fellow animal life. Huh? We call them pets. Your pet goldfish, your cat, your dog, even your hamster, right? Huh? Even the livestock, the horses and the cows and the goats, and we are able to communicate with them to some effect. Now, we are not able to communicate with them like Noach did, and we definitely are not able to communicate with them like Adam and Chava did. But mankind is the great communicator, is the great connector. This is why God gives over to Adam the responsibility, number one, of naming the animals, the bechamot, and then calling them to himself. And taking control over them. Taking, the scripture says, dominion, authority over them. This is the great connection. And this is our responsibility. By the way, Judaism never mistreats animals. In Judaism, you are never to mistreat an animal. That does not say you're not to kill them. That does not say you're not to eat them. That does not say that you cannot use them for clothing or whatever. It says you do not mistreat them. What do we mean by mistreat? We are never to torture an animal. We are to, if we're going to use an animal, number one, we are not ever to kill an animal for no purpose. If you're going to take an animal, a creature's life, it must have purpose. The only reason to take an animal's life, supposedly, as you know, as it would be said, without purpose, is if that animal is going to bring bad effect upon your life, as in roaches and things like that that bring diseases, flies that bring diseases into your home or whatever.
Termites that eat your house.
Huh?
Termites.
Termites. Those kinds of things. Then yes, you may take care of those kinds of situations. But if you find an ant bed in your yard, yes, you have the right, you have the permission to remove them, to get them out of your yard and poison them if necessary. But if you see an ant bed out in the woods somewhere, you do not have the right to mess with that ant. That ant is there because God placed that ant there and it has a purpose. Every living creature has its purpose. So if you see cockroaches out in the field somewhere, well, that's where the cockroach belongs. If you see it in your house, granted, it shouldn't be there. It brings diseases. If you see flies in your house and they're walking on your meat, but what do flies do? They lay eggs, and the larva does what? It eats the dead animal, or the what we call carrion, the dead meat out there, or the waste and all of that kind of stuff. That's why you don't want it coming into your house. But if it's out there doing its job, it's doing its job. Everything has a purpose. So we don't needlessly kill animals. We do not believe in catch and release. Catch and release is cruelty to the animal, to the fish, to whatever. Just to cease out of sport. We do not take animals out of sport. We take animals out of purpose. So we don't hunt for sport. We hunt if we have to hunt. If there's no need to hunt, we do not hunt. We only hunt if we have to hunt. We fish, but only if we're going to take that fish and clean it and eat it. Just to take a fish so that you can say you caught it and then turn it back is contrary to Torah, is contrary to Judaism. That's cruelty to the animal. And so we don't do these things. It is contrary to Torah to treat an animal cruelly. This is why we talk about the difference between clean meat and kosher meat. Kosher meat is meat that is killed properly. What do we mean properly? That is killed in a humane way. That it is killed, that it is put to death as quickly as possible. How quickly is that? In an instant. That the animal dies within an instant. And this is why they cut the bloodline and the trachea all with one cut. And this kills the animal instantly. You buy a butchered animal, it has been mistreated. It has been stunned or it has been poisoned. You buy chicken, they are usually gassed to death. They have been strangled, they have been this, they have been that. And this is considered, in Judaism, this is considered to be cruelty to the animal. The only humane way to kill an animal is to kill it instantly. And the only way to do that is to cut the blood supply to the brain and the air supply, the oxygen supply. And so they cut the carotid artery and the trachea with one cut, with one slice. They have to go so far as to test the blade on themselves. They have to run the blade between their fingers. There can be no nicks, no scratches, no rough points. They have to be able to shave their own arm without it catching any skin. There could be no jagged edges on the blade at all. And this is why you will see the Jewish butcher, every time any slice he makes, he's sharpening the knife. He's taking off any of those kinds of edges off of his knife. He must examine that knife every time he kills the next animal. He has to examine his knife very carefully to make sure. Very humane. So we don't go dove hunting, we don't do deer hunting, we don't do those kinds of things unless it is necessary for our survival. We live on sheep and cattle and chickens and turkeys and fish and those kinds of things. Okay? And so just putting that out there for you. But why? Because we are the enumerator. We are to take dominion, but that doesn't mean we're to kill and to trash out or to be inhumane or to treat it with cruelty. It is not permitted for you to, by Torah, it is not permitted for me to butcher an animal, one leg, one part at a time. And so to take the leg off of a goat, but leave the goat alive, living with just 3 legs, and then the next time take another one. And there are people who do that. There are tribes who do that. And because they try to keep it alive. Yeah, because they have nothing to keep them eat. And so it's an old custom that they would just take one leg, one shoulder off of the lamb at a time or whatever, off of the pig, and try to leave it, try to keep it living as long as possible. Because they didn't have refrigeration or whatever, they didn't have the means to keep the animal. It's forbidden by Scripture for us to do things like that. If you're going to take of the animal, then you put it to death, and then you take of the animal and you put it to death as humanely and as quickly as possible that you can. So we're the connection, we're the dominion of the earth. We're the representative of Hashem to His creation, and we are the representative of creation before Hashem. We are the representative of Hashem to our fellow man, and we are the representative of our fellow man before creation. So we find that the Kohen Hagadol, the priest, prayed for the people to Hashem, and then the priest brought the message of Hashem back to the people. And so this is the role of the Kohanim, of the priest, is to represent God to the people and the people to God. So Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1, the first Vav. Where do we find the first Vav? Reshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, Reshit, in the beginning, bara, created, Elohim, God, et, direct object pointer, hashamayim, the heavens, ve'et, and, direct object pointer, haaretz, the earth. So where do we first find the vav? Between heaven and earth. It is the connector, as you would say in English. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. So what? The vav is the connection between heaven and earth. In the Hebrew, in the English, en español también. En el principio creó Dios el cielo y el mundo. Okay, so, or la tierra. So, that man is the connection. And the first place where you find, so remember the pattern. Remember the law of first mention. When something is first mentioned, so the first time that vav is mentioned as this connector, and it is found where? Between heaven and earth. And what? Or should we say, who is vav? Ha'adam. Human. Why? Because he is created on the sixth day, and he is the connection between heaven and earth. As the Aleph created a vav and two Yudim, two heads. One reaching up and one reaching down, the Aleph. So we're going to go to the next page. Does everybody have everything here? So, one of the things that a vav can do, is that it can invert the tense of a verb. What do we mean by tense? Past, present, and future. So when we add a vav to a verb form, it can change the verb form from the future to the past. Or it can change the verb form from the past to the future. And this is called vav hahipuk. Say vav hahipuk. This particular vav, the other vav is a connection. This vav changes verb tense. It will change the verb tense. So, for example, Genesis chapter 1 and verse 3. Which is where it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. It says, va omer, va, remember va is a prefix, so meaning what? And, so see, you're already being able to read Hebrew. Va, and, omer, said, Elohim, what is Elohim? God. Yehi, let there be, or let there be, future tense. Okay, everybody with me? So he says, Va'omer, and said, Elohim, God, Yehi, let there be, Or. Or means light. Everyone say Or. O-R. Vav, Resh. O-R. Let there be light. Okay? And then it says, Yehi, Or. Let there be light. Vaihi. Va, and Yehi. But it's pronounced Vaihi. Everyone say Vaihi. The Vav in the second Yehi, let there be light, let there be light. But now we've put a Vav there as a prefix meaning and, but it has also changed the tense of the verb because the verse says, and God said, let there be light. What does the next part say? And there was light. Now in the Hebrew it says Yehi, Yehi, which is and is. But because the Vav is put there, it's future tense to past tense. And so we've moved from future tense, let there be, or there will be light, Vaihi. Yehi, there will be, you add the Vav, Vaihi, there was. And so, what did we say here? We said that this is called Vav, that Vav is called Vav HaHipuch. That is changing the tense of the verb to be. That there will be light, and there was light. By adding the Vav to it, it changed the tense from future tense to past. In other words, what did we do? We traveled backwards in time. Remember what I asked you before the break. Can we try time travel? Is there the possibility to travel backwards in time? And I said what? We said what? Yes, just not the probability of it. And yet here we are, when God says, there will be light, that's in the future, right? I will do something means you're going to do it in the future, correct? Everybody with me? I will do something means in the future. I have done something is where? In the past, okay? I will go, future. I was there, past. Okay, so he says first the future tense, I will. There will be light, literally is what it says. There will be light, Yehi, there will be. Vaihi, and there was. So you went from future back to the past. He went from future tense to past tense. Now, that's grammatical, correct? That's talking about a verb tense. So it's grammar. But that is the secret, this is the mystery of what we're telling you, that just because something is in the physical realm, it also has its spiritual counterparts. So that even in grammar, tense, the future goes back into the past, and the past can go into the future. So in the spiritual realm, so it is in the spiritual realm. And this is what makes some things possible for us. Some awesome things, some wonderful things for us. And it is the Vav that does this for us. It's this connection that we have. This connection with God that we have. That we're able to go to the future and draw from the future. That man is the connection between heaven and earth. Man is the connector. We have this connection with God. That we're able to go and draw from the future. What do we mean by this? So what is in the future? What is it that we look for in the future?
One day to be with God.
To be with God. So Olam Chava. Everyone say, let's do the Hebrew. Olam
Olam.
means the world. Haba H-A-B-A means to come, the world to come. Ha means the, but in Hebrew you put the direct article on the adjective. Okay, so or the adverb to come, the world to come. Okay, so the defining term to come. So ha, the, come, ba, come, haba. Olam, world, haba, or actually olam can also mean universe, creation. So olam, the universe to come, creation to come, the time to come, the world to come, the age to come, any of those. Okay, so we reach to the future in order to get us, and we pull it back to the past. In Hebrew, this is called Hatikva. Hatikva, which means the hope. As Titus tells us that the coming of Yeshua Mashiach is our blessed hope, is our tikva. It's our tikva barcha. It's the hope that blesses us. That the book of Hebrews chapter 11 speaks of having emunah, having a faith of things that you cannot see and yet you long for. This is the idea. This is what gives us strength. When I was laying there on the hospital bed, this is what gave me the strength to pull through every day. And through the year-long sicknesses and treatments and the chemotherapies and the radiation therapies and all of that, pulling myself forward every day through each day. Hatikva, the hope of knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel. God is the man is where man is, but God is in other words, you're in the present, part of you is in the past and part of you is in the future, actually is the way it works. You're here in the present, but part of you is still in the past. This is according to the theory of relativity. Part of you is still in the past and part of you is moving ahead into the future. So you're not like in one time, because time doesn't stand still. Okay? But God is outside of that. So he is in the past, he is in the present, and he is in the future all at one time. Okay? The Aleph Tav. I am he who was, who is, and who is to come.
So will be something similar, or the way that I understand is like, for example, we were born right, and we live our lives with the hope that one day we're going back home.
Correct. And in fact, what the Chazal teaches is that all of our souls, which is the essence which comes from God, the heavenly aspect of us, that our souls were created at creation. All the souls of all humankind. And we wait there at the throne for our time, for our part. When it's our part, we are sent down to inhabit this tabernacle, this temple, beginning, of course, within our mother's womb. And this is the longing that all of mankind has, to return home, because we know that this is why every society has some form of religion, some form of a coming world, a coming a heaven, a future, these kinds of things, a future life. The deities and all of these things, it all comes from this idea, even though man has fallen, we have this longing. What is the longing? Because our souls were all created at the throne of God. Where do we return to? The book of the book of Revelation tells us that we return, that the souls of those who were martyred during the period of tribulation are found where? At the throne of God. And so we return to our Father, to our Creator.
So our past is our future.
Our past is our future in a tremendous way. In a tremendous way. And so what we're speaking to here is the ability. Now remember that this all goes back. This is a physical ability. This is quantum physics. That physicality is able to transverse time, forward and backward, according to what? The speed of light. Remember, this all has to do with the creation of light. So the closer you come to the speed of light, the slower time goes. You're going forward to the future. The slower time goes until you pass the speed of light, in which time now begins to go backwards. So that if you are traveling faster than the speed of light, you would get here before you left. You understand that? Sounds like a cartoon thing, huh? You can leave and get back. It sounds like Back to the Future. You can get here. That's what all of that is kind of like, it's kind of quirky. When you're watching the Back to the Future series. And where exactly then are we in time? Because guess what? Time is relative to what? Gravity and mass and light and speed, all of these things. It's all related. That's why it's called the theory of relativity. And time does speed up. Only in a vacuum does time travel at 186,282 miles per second. Only in a vacuum. In reality, it speeds up and it slows down. To the point that it can even go backwards. You see how all of this is tying in what we were talking about on Shabbat. We're going to talk about more of this on this coming Shabbat. Because this is fantastic stuff. This is how great our Creator is. And this is what, why I mention to you the Matrix all the time. Because we think that this is reality. And it's not that reality. In fact, this table is not even truly solid. It is mostly made up of space. It appears to be solid. But it is only because the atoms within this table are packed more densely than the atoms of my flesh. So the more solid something is, the more dense the atoms of that mass are. But the more space that is given to it, the less dense it is. Therefore, the water is not as dense. The atoms of water, the molecules of water are not packed as densely as this table. These are all the cool kind of things that we get into when we're speaking to this issue, to these things, to this creation that God has made for us. So where we're going to stop here tonight is with this. The secret of time is found here. This is where we find the secret of time. In Vav, the connector. Or we could say it is actually within yourself, because not only does our duality have to do with our living, but understand this, that you have two different instincts, as it were. Two different nefeshot, two different rachim, two different spirits. The animal instinct, yes, but what I'm saying is this: the animal instinct is what we call temporal, 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 means temporary, only for this time. This is why Yeshua tells the Prushim that in Chashamayim there is no giving or taking of marriage. Remember, they come and they ask him, okay, so this woman's been married 5 different times. That she gets married and her husband dies and she gets married again and her husband dies and she gets married again and her husband dies and she gets married and her husband dies. So whose husband, their big question is, whose husband is she going to be in Olam Chava? My question is, how come her husbands kept dying? Their question is, whose husband is she going to be? To whom will she belong? And Yeshua says, you do not know what you're talking about. For in heaven there is no giving of taking in marriage. Why? Because there is no procreation taking place in Hashemayim.
Okay, so now I have a question. So for example, we always, we hope, right, that when, in this case, Brendita died,
Yes.
and my hope is one day I'm going to see her.
Yes.
Because I hear that part before that you just mentioned. So what is going to happen in that case? Are we going to be able to recognize like my grandparents?
Rav Shaul says that you will know even as you are known. You will be known, yes. Even as you are known. Okay, so the relation, we're not saying that you don't have the relations,
Okay.
so to speak. In other words, the people who are your friends here. You see, my wife is my wife, but understand that in what does that mean? She's my best friend. Okay, and we've become one. But it means something else. We're united in mentality, in morality, in those kinds of things, in our goals, our aims, and all of that. We're united in that, in a spiritual sense.
It's not only in the physical way, but also in the spiritual.
More in the spiritual sense. Marriage is more in the spiritual sense. Okay? The physical relationship is only for this earth and this lifetime, and it is only even in that only for a time. Because eventually the body falls apart and it is unable to do what it was able to do before. As with Sarah, that the time of woman was past her. She was beyond the age of woman. And he was the time of youth, the time of the young man. When procreation is the thing, that's the... So, in heaven, what he's talking about is in heaven there is no procreation. Why? Because we have dropped off the physical instinct, and we have become a spiritual creation, a spiritual creature, wholly and completely spiritual. Now there's a debate between two rabbis, I forget, it's Rashi and Nachmanides or Maimonides, I can't remember which one, but among the three of them, there was a debate as to whether it's going to be a wholly spiritual life or if we're going to have physical aspects. Maimonides said it's a physical life. Rashi said, I think it was Rashi said it's a spiritual life, a spiritual existence, and Maimonides said or maybe it's reversed, I don't remember. But so one says it's wholly spiritual, the other says it's physical and spiritual, even as we have here on earth. But we don't have those relationships. So we will not have the instinct of, just like we won't have the instinct of hunger or thirst or any of those things. We won't be sick, we won't die, none of those kinds of things. We will not have the instinct, the physical instinct to sleep. There won't even be nighttime there. It will be daytime all of the time. Because Yeshua, he says, there will be no day and there will be no night, because Yeshua is the light. So we're going to drop off the physical instincts that are temporary for this lifetime, and this is what Yeshua is saying. We will be, he says, we will be as the Malachim in heaven who have no sexual relations.
But it doesn't say like we're going to be like the angels?
Yes. We're going to be like, even more so, it says that we're going to be in 1 John chapter 3. It says we're going to be like Yeshua. Behold what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we might be called the children of God. That we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Okay, so we're going to stop there. The secret of time is found in this, and next week we're going to talk more about that. We already gave you that one, the power to draw from the future to put it into the past, and we're going to talk about how this is done. So with that, we say, Lala Tov V'Shalom.